We hold these truths to be self-evident. All men and women created by go. You know the thing.
I'm among many qualified people. I'm the best qualified person for this job.
I'm beginning to see why your wife left you.
Why attack Sanders? Why?
You're getting nervous.
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, it's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it. You know, the rapidly rising I don't know. I just spoke at Dartmouth on healthcare at the medical school, or not. I guess I wasn't actually on the campus, but the people from the medical school were at the. I want to be clear. I'm not going nuts. I'm not sure whether it was a medical school or where the hell I spoke, but it was on the campus. I propose, and I'm going to digress slightly. We're in a situation. The president asked me to head up a cancer moonshot. Another country and annexed a significant portion of it called Crimea. Right. He's saying that it was my boss, it was his fault. We have this notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
You said I set up my son to work in an oil company. Isn't that what you said? Get your words straight, Jack.
That's what I hear on MSNBC.
You don't hear that on MSNBC. You did not hear that. But you heard. Look, okay, I'm not going to get in an argument with you, man.
No, I don't want to.
Well, yeah, you do. But look, Fat, look, here's the deal. Here's the deal. Look. Any other questions?
Yeah, all right. I'm not voting for you.
Well, I knew you weren't, man. You think I thought you'd stand up and vote for me? You're too old to vote for me.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys. And I did. And back in those days, to show how things have changed, one of the things you had to use, if you used pomade in your hair, you had to wear a bathing cap. And so he was up on the board, wouldn't listen to me. I said, hey, Esther, you, off the board, or I'll come up and drag you off. Well, he came off, and he said, I'll meet you outside. He said, I'll be waiting for you. He was waiting for 3 guys in straight razors. Not a joke. There was a guy named Bill Wright, Mouse, the only white guy, and he did all the pulls. And by the way, you know, I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach into the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. They'd look at it. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap. And I've loved kids jumping on my lap. My colleague, he just joined the public defender's office. He said, will you in fact defend him? So he turned to Larkin and said, he'll defend you. And he looked at Larkin and he said, you mind if he represents you? And I'll never forget what he said. I learned a lot. He said, and I mean it sincerely. He looked at me and he said, one hunky's just as bad as any other. I'll take whoever you send me. And here's what I want to tell you about Earl. Here's what I want to tell you about the neighborhood and the heart. I defended him. He got beat up right on the other side of the field here. He walked along the tracks. He was a sailor in a sailor's uniform, the guy who he beat up and robbed. And so I thought he was innocent. I kept the jury out 5 hours, but they convicted him. And I felt so bad. And finally, he took the table, he flipped it up, and he said, jumped up, and the guards came and grabbed him. He said, don't you understand, Joe? I did it. I did it. There's character, even in great problems. There's so much character in this neighborhood.
Mr. Vice President, I want to come to you and talk to you about inequality in schools and race. In a conversation about how to deal with segregation in schools back in 1975, you told a reporter, I don't feel responsible for the sins of my father and grandfather. I feel responsible for what the situation is today, for the sins of my own generation, and I'll be damned if I feel responsible to pay for what happened 300 years ago. You said that some 40 years ago. But as you stand here tonight, what responsibility do you think that Americans need to take to repair the legacy of slavery in our country?
Well, they have to deal with look, there is institutional segregation in this country.
And from the time I got involved, I started dealing with that. Redlining, banks, making sure that we are in a position where, look, we talk about education. Make sure that we bring in to help the teachers deal with the problems that come from home. We bring social workers into homes of parents to help them deal with how to raise their children. It's not that they don't want to help. They don't know quite what to do. Play the radio. Make sure the television, make sure you have the record player on at night. The phone. Make sure the kids hear words.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.